Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts,
Inelia
and Larry.
Yay!
Yeah.
We did great that time.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with it.
Yep, I'm getting gooder.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't get it?
Gooder.
Get it?
It's like gooder and better.
Get it? Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
What's been on your mind, honey?
Well, I think that we should talk about the Instant Manifestation Workshop at Benz Academy, because you just finished the very last lab for the offering, the latest offering, right, of the workshop. And it's been really fascinating journey, hasn't it? Because, well, in my opinion, each group seems to improve the one that came before. Right?
Like building on the backs of giants, that kind of thing.
But also making the giants bigger.
Oh, bringing the giants with them?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's interesting. I think you're right. I think you're completely right.
Spontaneously, both groups, the very first group and the new group, or spontaneously started talking about and manifesting the same items.
Yeah, that's quite hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was interesting to me too, right, is the first instant manifestation workshop we had live in person, and oh my God, that was an intense 10 to 12 days. Holy crap!
Everything has to be packed,
all
into 8
smashed
days.
into 10 days,
10
which
days,
seems like a long time, but we just finished doing it for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was cram-packed.
Yep.
Like, it was cram-packed to the degree that it was, like, difficult to be able to
complete.
do. And we did it in 10 days the first go-around.
Yeah.
And then with a 2-month stretch, it's a lot more comfortable, very intense still. So intense, it's like overwhelming your life intense, in a good way. Mm-hmm. But, the experience of bringing the last into the current and the current into the next, and it seems like time kind of like smears a little bit. It kind of smears out. Mm-hmm. And the people that are here this one, the people that gathered from before, our prior group had or has a chat still that we get together on. And one of the items that came up for them to manifest together came up exactly the same as the new group's item. The only item that everyone had consensus on immediately was the same item that the prior group had just decided to manifest to as a group. Yeah. That was hilarious. And neither one is really talking to each other, so to speak.
There's no crossover.
No crossover in that way.
Apart from the facilitators, right?
Right.
The facilitators are in both.
Right.
But the facilitators didn't originate.
They're not originating the ideas for those ideas were spontaneously original thoughts, honey.
Yep. Original thoughts.
They had the same original thought.
That's right.
In consensus and unanimity. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's processes to go through in that unanimity. Everybody agrees, yes, let's do it, but not on the implementation, or not with all the same blocks or the same firewalls. It's the same. Everyone has their own unique spin on how they interpret this thing to do and manifest together, which is basically one of the main points is understanding that.
Yes, exactly.
That you bring a lot of different things to the table when you work as a group that you don't bring as an individual, including your firewalls, but also including your unique superpowers. Mm-hmm. Right. So accentuate the positive, and what's the word about something about the negative? I think there's a song about that.
I don't know. I just say stop it, drop it.
Okay, fine. Drop it, the negative, accentuate the positive.
There you go.
That'll work. Yeah. It's not a good a rhyme as this real song, but it'll do.
In the past few chats, we've had quite a few chats this week on live calls. And what I've been feeling, and also at the Shaman Shop, we always sit down, not always, but often, most days, once or twice a day, we'll sit down in the kitchen table, everybody who's here, visiting or staying or living here. And we'll have all these really interesting chats. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting chats that has been coming up it's something that I explore in the Return series, the second book, The Earth Files. I've also explored it in other novels to some degree, but now it feels to be extremely relevant, especially with the energy that we are generating with the instant manifestation workshops. And it comes from the question of, have you ever wondered why I designed the course and the workshop? Why I bothered to do it, right? And I asked that question to the group, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Did you ever wonder why I did this, right?
Yeah.
And a few individuals were spot on, right? I think everybody got part of it, at least, the why. And basically, it is to form extremely high frequency groups that are independent high frequency groups that can then succeed. Because success does not come alone. It's not a lonely business, like bathing. Success, you need good allies and good counsel. Without good allies and good counsel, there's no success. Because it's all about connection and people. And there is a false teaching on the planet that says if you get any help or any advice from somebody else, it's not real success. Right? So I knew a couple of people growing up. There was one person who was a spiritual teacher, and I remember we were chatting together, we were friends, we hung out together, and then she came up with something about something that was disabling her. I can't remember what the situation say, but let's say, for example, that it was a fear. The fear was debilitating her. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, why don't you use the fear processing exercise? It's in my website. And she said, oh, no, I don't read it. Any other spiritual teacher's works, because that might pollute my own.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, okay. How's that working out for you? And the other situation was with a person who was an artist.
Well, before you move on, how was that working out?
Oh, it wasn't.
Okay. I think that needs to be said.
Okay, cool. Good point.
So why doesn't that work out?
Because we are in a human collective.
Yeah.
We don't function on our own. And the division and separation of skills or individuals is Western minds, and also the low frequency paradigms way to disempower individuals.
Isolate, disempower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. The other example was an artist, and this artist had talent, but they didn't have much skill. And I said, why don't you it was in England, I was a kid, why don't you take classes at the local community college? This is where you can go, anybody can take classes at. And art, learn the techniques in art, just take art classes. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, because I don't want to be influenced by the teachers or any other people on my art. I want it to be pure. Yeah.
That does remind me of your experience at Juilliard or one of those places, or another friend had the same experience. They went there to be taught technique, I think it was, and they sent them away and said, this isn't going to help you. It was putting in the structure that existed before wasn't what you needed. It's a little bit like the writing thing. It's like conforming to the way that everyone else writes isn't what's needed.
Well, conforming, no, but it's like in order to break grammatical rule, you need to know grammatical rules, right?
I don't know. I suppose. But I think that misses the most important thing, which you taught me, which is that it's, in the case of your writing, it is getting the original thought on paper and putting it into the grammar part. is
It's
sometimes
irrelevant.
people's their firewall. Yeah. So there's it's like a mix of things going on here. I'm
Here's
just
the thing.
confused. That's all.
Okay. They're refusing to check out other people's work because they might influence yours is one energy, right?
Yeah,
Knowing what you're doing and going for more expansion of that skill and then realizing it being told, no, that's not good for you. That's something completely different.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
At least you went out and tried to get more skill, and then if the person says, no, actually your skill's better.
Yeah, the skill you bring is fine.
Away.
You need just keep that one.
Yeah, and maybe go and do this other thing,
Right, at least that's open to.
Exactly. It's a different energy. At least you're getting allies, right?
Right. I get you.
Maybe not good counsel right away. But, it's like that. And I think I remember the incident is when I went to learn the Reiki. And Reiki, each level costs thousands and thousands of dollars, right? In my case, at the time, it was pesetas. I was in Spain. It was a long time ago. And I'm pretty sure it was before the euro. And I went to this lady, and there's a couple of things, It's like I was really curious about it, and I thought it was good because I could see the energies moving in people, and it felt good to me. So I went over, and she told me all about it. And there's these little signs that they have that the guy who invented Reiki created for each level.
Signs?
And, little sigils.
Sigil things, sort of like you do with your hand?
Yeah, but also you can put it right in, but you do it with your hand or the person and stuff.
I see.
And so we had our first thing, and I thought it was marvelous, right? I was very happy with it. She was an older lady, and she was really good. There was a red flag when I went in there, and the red flag was she was married to the guy who she had to make sure he wasn't home when she was teaching people Reiki. Right? That type of person. And he just happened to arrive when I was there, and she told me, don't tell him you're here for the Reiki, We'll just say that we're just friends or whatever. I'm like, okay, So that was a red flag. But when we finished the lesson, she was in an altered state, like really, really altered. And she said to me, you don't need to learn this stuff. She said, actually, you're way beyond any level that I can teach you, even the maxed, because she was maxed out on Reiki. She was a max master at it. Even that level, she said, because when I started doing the treatment and passing the energies and information and everything, I'm the one who got healed. And it was beyond anything that the levels in Reikis can teach you. And she said, you're way beyond them, so here are all the signs. All the levels, here they are. Don't tell anyone.
But you just told everyone.
Oh yeah, but nobody knows who she is.
Okay.
And then somebody else who had also paid for the entire thing and had all the signs and everything. I was telling her the story, and she said, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you keep them? And I said, no, I didn't. And she says, well, here they are.
I think the Reiki wants you to have it.
Yeah, so they gave me all the things. But yeah, so that in that instance, I was interested in because I like to investigate things. I like to know whether they work, right?
Right. You weren't afraid of being soiled by the data. You weren't afraid of being hijacked by information.
Or be stuck in a dogma or
stuck in a
like
dogma
that, right?
because you can explore it
without
from an empowered state anyway.
Yeah. And I'm not egoic enough to think that I know it all or that I'm better than everybody else, If they said that was their opinion. That was their opinion, and they were the masters at it. But it's like, okay, so thanks, I won't take the other classes because I trusted the master. They knew what they were talking about. So I went on and learned other stuff. I remember once So I went to an event in Sacramento. There was this guy, I can't remember his name now, but he's completely different. He's a different person now, literally looks extremely different to when I met him. When I met him, there was about 50 people in the room, and it was quite extraordinary actually, because his events usually get thousands of people. But it was a Sacramento thing that they did where they had I don't know, the state would pay for these teachers to come in for the people. It was really cool. I went to a lot of classes with that system because they were accessible. They used to bring people to the city so that the people in the city could go to them.
Cool.
Right?
That's one of the benefits of living in a city.
Yeah, totally.
You might as well take
So I was
advantage of
very
it.
excited. He was this healer, and I'd read his book, and he was originally a chiropractor, and he was getting really extraordinary results. And then he figured out I can't remember how it happened, but he figured out that there was these other healers in a different, like, entities, dimensions, coming through, right, coming through him and healing the people on his table.
Yep. I've seen that. I've experienced that too.
Yeah. And it was extraordinary. So I thought, my goodness, I really want to learn about this. And he was there. I was available. So I went to the event, and it's like, I was shocked there was only 50 people there because it wasn't well advertised. Right? It would just come out in one little book you got once a month, this little book, and every day you would look to see what classes were in the city, right? And then you could plan ahead on them. Mm-hmm. And there was two ladies sitting next to me, and we were in the class, and his method said that he would pass the skill to his assistants, and then his assistants would go around the room and touch touch your hands, and they would pass on the skill to you.
Handy.
Yeah. Anyways, so with the lecture, and as I was watching him, I could see that the tips of his fingers were deep blue. And I thought he'd broken a pen, right? In the stage, I thought he broke a pen and all his fingers got all that blue dye on them, right?
Right.
And I kept looking and looking, thinking, wow, did he not notice? Did nobody notice that his fingers are stained by a pen, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody would care, so I thought, okay. Anyways, then his assistants went around, and these two ladies were sitting next to me, chatting with each other all the time, you know. And I could see that they were awake. They were very interesting ladies. And every now and then, you know, they make me a comment to me, and I would say something, and they would laugh and giggle, and then carry on talking among each other. And you could tell they were best mateys, right?
Right.
And then the assistants came around to our row of people, and you had to close your eyes and put your hands out. I put my hands out, and the assistant touched me, and I felt nothing. There was nothing there. And I'm like, oh, that's disappointing. That's weird and disappointing. And it just, yeah, I was like, oh.
Darn it.
And then the ladies next to me, they did the same, and she went on to the other people there. And when it was over, the assistants went back to the stage, and the lecture continued. And the ladies next to me, they said, "We're going to leave now. We're leaving." And they said, "And we suggest you do too." And I was like, "Oh, what happened? What's going on here?" And he says, "Well, you felt nothing, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I didn't feel anything, but maybe later it might come through." I said, "No, nothing's going to come through, lady, you know." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, there's nothing here. One of them says, "Actually, we're very, very sensitive. We're very, very psychic. Mm-hmm. The only person in this room who has real, powerful, way beyond skills is you. You're the only person. I would pay to go to your lecture." I said, "Well, what would I do?" It's like, I'm not a healer.
Is this before you went public?
Oh yeah, way before. And they said, it's like, what? I'm not a healer. I said, "I don't do that anymore." It says, "Exactly, anymore, right?" It says, "You got me." And they say, "Well, if ever I'm going to go watch out for you if you do a lecture, because I'm pretty sure we're going to get something from that one. but there's nobody here to that we can learn from. There's nothing here. And I said, but I see well, what about him? You know, the healer says, oh yeah, he's got some skill, but it's not something he can pass along. But, you know, you lift a rock and there's 10 healers under there, so it's nothing special. And I was like, what? I was like, what? I really like this guy, you know? Yeah. And I thought he was teaching really good and he was well presented and they said, so, you know, do you want to come with us? You know, like, let's leave. And I said, no, I'll stay. I'll just, you know, I just want to see if there's anything more. I'd see what everything and anything he has to teach, you know. Mm-hmm. And he says, okay, but we're telling you there's nothing here for you. And they got their handbags and left. Right? And I'm like, what just happened, you know? And I was looking at this guy and I thought, no, I'm sticking with it. And maybe, if, you know, it's like when I talk to him one-to-one, maybe we'll get more information or something, you know? Because his book was extraordinary. Anyways, the event thing's finished and then he's doing like the meet and greet at the end of it. And I go up to him and the first thing I was going to tell him is like, hey, you know, your fingers, you know, you must have broken a pen or something. And his hand went out to shake mine and there was no ink. His fingers were normal color.
Guess he washed them.
No, he hadn't left the stage. And I was like, what? And I think I made a comment. And he laughs and he says, yeah, some people see the healing energy coming out of my fingers. And I was like, oh.
Put in one and one together.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
That's what that is.
That's what that was. Anyways, I was still really happy with the lecture and everything, and I learned a few things, right? Especially about holding a lecture, right? But also the way that he actually was genuine, he was truthful, and he really, really wanted to impart this knowledge and also the skill. That was his 100% intent. But I guess the beings that he worked with didn't maybe agree with everybody receiving it or something. I don't know. I don't actually know.
It's a bit tricky, that bit, because, you know, a skill that you have and you can't pass on, like, what's the point of teaching everybody if you can't even do it?
Right, that's true.
Kind of pointless, unless it was others, like you said, that maybe that skill could be passed on to, or maybe he just is, it's hard to say. That's one of the things when you go searching for these educations and groups, is like, you're going to get something, maybe not all of it.
Right. Some people are going to teach you so good, but others, man,
not so much.
Not so much. Another time when I wanted to learn after I was asked to go public.
Before you go further.
Okay.
Can you do blue things on your fingers now?
No.
Honey, why?
I tried to get blue ink on my fingers and it's never worked.
Oh my gosh.
Never worked. No.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I tried.
And do we have no way to get blue stuff on your fingers?
No. Unless I break a pen and spill it all over my fingertips.
Will that work?
Yeah, it does. It's the same color.
So, if we examine that, the blue things out of your fingers aren't actually necessary for the healing part.
No. Because
you can do healing without the blue part.
Right.
But the blue part for you was interesting.
Yes,
and
fascinating.
It drew your attention. So, in a sense, his blue thing coming out of his fingers basically opened up a door for you to see and stay engaged and interested. Because otherwise you might have just listened to those two ladies and just left.
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, I would have.
Maybe,
yeah.
Because you didn't feel anything, and if you hadn't actually seen anything either, it's like, why even stay here?
Exactly, yeah.
So, it feels to me, when I look at it, it's like that was for you to stay and to engage and to watch how someone works on stage, because that was before you went public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was more about how to be on stage in public.
Right.
So you don't usually send people out that you touched to go talk to everybody else. No. That's not what you do.
No.
Yeah, so interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and sometimes, like the show we just watched last night.
Which one?
Oh, the wizard one.
Oh, Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, right? Right in the middle of the Doctor Strange. It's not about you. Yeah. Well, in this case, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was about you.
It wasn't about you.
It totally was about you.
How?
Just training you.
Oh, the public
for Hard
thing.
Republic.
Yeah. Well, later on, when it was like go public, and I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I went to an event by that
Tony
publishing.
Robbins? Oh no, Hay House.
Hay House Publishing.
Yeah.
And they had like 20 authors there. Mm-hmm. A lot of which I loved. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and learn from the best, see what their lectures are like and their events are like, these authors. And one of them, and unfortunately I don't remember her name, she specializes in previous life regressions. And she would do unmasked things. And her presence on the stage was fabulous. She was 100% there. I learned tons from her, not just about her presence, but also her methodology of regression was something that was very, very different to anything I had read. I had actually not heard of her, and I'd just gone to her lecture which had about 2,000 people, because the one that I wanted to get into was full. So I couldn't get into the author that I wanted to go see. I think it was actually Anna Abrach, I can't remember her surname, the animal communicator. That's the one I wanted to go to.
Oh, Anna Brettenbach.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go to her lecture, but that was stuffed full and I couldn't get in. So I went to the one next door, which was just after I came in and a couple more people, and it was full. So it was over 2,000 people in it. Wow. So she was well known, but I had never heard of her. And she was just fabulous. And I could see when she was doing the regression thing and the exercises, and she's smiling away and looking at the audience, and she could work that audience so well. The whole audience, every single person in the audience got a session. So somebody who can do a session with 2,000 people.
2,000 people, right.
Right? That's skill.
That is skill.
That is skill. And I'm like totally blown away by the whole experience. It was marvelous. It was fantastic, and I loved it. And I learned so many skills from her, from how she approached individuals, how she approached the subject, how she did the actual session, everything about it. Of course, as on the way out, I bought all her books, right?
Yeah.
Because it was marvelous. So it's not always that, I go in and, you're special and you can't learn anything from here. I've had experience, and that's just one example, right? And I have another example. I wanted to learn how to paint in acrylic. Mm-hmm. I knew how to paint in oils, but acrylic is very different. But I wanted to learn acrylics because the oil paintings really get into my lungs. So it's a little bit unpleasant for me. I get an asthma thing when I'm painting. So I tried acrylics once, and it was very, very easy for my lungs. Plus also they dry much faster. So you can it's a completely different technique. So I wanted to learn the techniques of painting with acrylics. So I was living in Madrid, and I looked for, the little ads, painting art, in acrylics and whatever's. Couldn't find anybody, but, a few blocks away from where I worked, there was an ad for, art classes, mm-hmm. art classes. So I thought, oh great, art classes. So I called the guy and says, sure, absolutely, I can teach you how to paint in acrylics. I do private classes, here's my studio, just come over. And I thought, brilliant. So I went over after work, and he was there, and he says, okay, so here's the thing. Before you learn acrylics, you're going to have to learn how to draw. Okay? Because without knowing how to draw, you're never going to be able to function with any other type of thing, right? So did you ever learn how to draw? I said, well, when I was 16 in school, I had some lessons on how to draw, but it's like, really? Okay, all right. So you're the master, the teacher, so teach me.
Yep.
And for the next month or 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 6, he taught me all about drawing, all the techniques, and also charcoal. So we went from pencil to charcoal, and he taught me all about charcoal and everything. And at the end of it, I had this beautiful, beautiful charcoal drawing. And I said, okay, so now I know how to draw. Would you agree? And he said, yes. Okay, teach me how to do acrylic. He looks at me, he says, actually, I don't know how to do acrylics. I've never painted with acrylics, and I can't teach you anything because I don't know it. I said, you bugger, why did you tell me I came here to learn acrylics, man? And he says, well, you know, the starving artist thing. Says, yeah, I've got that. I needed a student, man. I needed students, and I would say anything to get a student. But I knew you had talent the first day, and it's like, you should continue drawing. And charcoal, then, you know, you can explore other materials and stuff. I can teach you everything about drawing. Everything. Every style, I know it, and I can teach you everything. And I thought, you bugger, you lied to me. I want acrylic, man. And I walked out of there, and I never saw him again. But it's like, I learned a lot, right? Yeah. Not what I wanted to learn, which was the acrylic, but I learned a lot about drawing and art and everything, you know.
Well, you know, charcoal is a bit of a detoxer, right? So maybe you need a little detoxing in your life more than you needed acrylics to get rid of the oils.
I didn't know that. I never thought of it that way. But yeah, after each class, you know, you'd have all your hands covered in black, you know, that you had to wash away. But yeah, there was charcoal in the air. But, you know, he called me a few more times, and I was nearly convinced to go back. He nearly convinced me to go back and be his student. But then I moved out of Madrid, so that was over. But yeah, it's like, learning and being open to learning is extremely important, in my opinion. And the group thing, why is it so important? Because we are a collective. We are a collective. We do not exist in isolation. We're first a collective, and secondly, we're individuals.
Right. That's an interesting part. And before we go too far past the where we were, I'm sure everybody's in their mind questioning, okay, that was very interesting. Who was the writer of the regressions and the speaker?
I'll figure it out.
You haven't remembered? Because we've been reading some regressions. We did last night even. Edith Fiore.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out. I know I can find it in my email or something. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, because I'm interested in buying some of those books now.
Yeah, because I don't have them no more. They're still in California, my books, so...
Yeah, well, you'll have them again soon because it's a topic
I know she's part Native American, and I know that she works with her daughter now, who's following her in her steps. I know those things, but I can't for the life of me remember her name.
It's okay, we'll find it.
Okay,
and we'll put it on Talk With Me Now, probably.
Yeah, Talk With Me Now, but also the show notes
if we remember by then.
Yes. But going back to the original talk about group dynamics, right?
Right, and the human collective, and
yeah,
you mentioned some stuff this week about that was kind of insightful, interesting. Is how the horse leading the cart, or the cart leading the horse, type of a thing about how the human collective functions. You know, bringing in who it wants.
Yeah.
To accomplish what it wants.
Right.
To accomplish, right? Like architects or whatever. Can you go into that a little bit? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to talk about.
Yeah. Go. Do it.
So we have to understand, right, that we do not live in isolation, that other individuals' strength can be our strength if we allow that, and our strengths can be other people's strength if we allow that. Right? But the part about the human collective is something that like I mentioned before, I talked about in a couple of my books already. And I saw it, you know, as a very young child, I saw this. That the human collective will give birth to the skills, energies, and minds that it needs for its ultimate survival and growth.
Mm-hmm.
Could be geographical growth, could be not evolutionary, because I don't actually believe in that you evolve, but in remembrance and expansion of awareness growth and reconnection growth. And for example, if the human collective wants to build cities, then it'll be a whole generation of architects are going to be born. Individuals who their dream is to become an architect,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I remember in my high school, at my whatever career thingy, whatever, they said, "All right, everybody, you should become architects. They're going to get paid a lot, and they're going to be in huge demand. We need architects, so study architecture."
Yeah.
I remember that being a big push when I was in high school.
Yeah. And then, other generations will be something else. Right?
Doctors and lawyers, I've heard that in some areas.
Yeah, some generations, everybody in their class is a lawyer.
Everybody should be a doctor and a lawyer.
Or a lawyer, yeah, a doctor. So the generational thing, and it's also locational.
Yep, in some locations we really, really need farmers.
Yep. And the kids that are born there, they just want to be farmers, right? Yeah. Or other people in other locations, they go there to be farmers.
Mm.
So the human collective knows what it needs and births those people. And in all the skills and things that we need, there's people who are interested in it. But also the human collective knows what it no longer needs, or what it doesn't no longer wants for its growth of awareness and expansion.
It's what it's done with.
What it's done with, whatever it is that it no longer needs. And each individual is the human collective. Each individual is the human collective. And therefore, each individual knows when their role is done. You've often probably heard when people retire, a couple of weeks later they die.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen it too, yeah.
And on the Spanish call, Inelia made a good point, and she said she's also seen and heard of people, they will go home after having lived in other countries before for their entire life. They go home and a week or two later they're dead. Or individuals who move house after having lived somewhere their entire life and a week or two later they're dead, right? Mm-hmm. So we've heard of these things and we know they're real. And why does that happen? Because the role that the person came in to do is over. So they're gone. Right? For the human collective. And one of the keys to a long, healthy life is when to sit down for yourself and say, okay, human collective, tap into that expanded awareness that you are the human collective. What role can I play on this planet that will support the high frequency human collective intents?
Ooh, that's a valuable thing to say and ask.
Uh-huh. And then figure it out. Draw cards, have lucid dreaming, or keep a journal. Create a language that your higher self, the human collective, can communicate with you, and you can understand.
To give you the answers.
Right?
Enlist help with your enlist help if you need it.
And guaranteed, once you make that decision and step into that role, you will live another whole lifetime.
I've heard that too. I remember I have heard and seen examples of that as well. Mm-hmm. That retired from 40 years of Coast Guard or whatever, and some of them die, and some of them start an entire new life.
Yeah. That's
just as interesting and rewarding, and honestly, their whole physical body changes.
Yeah.
They're like, who is that?
Yeah.
It's like they begin an entire different life.
Yeah.
They still incorporate what they had to some degree, but in a totally different expression, Mm-hmm. I can think of a few people that I've seen that happen with.
What does that tell you, though? It tells you you're not in isolation. You do not succeed on your own.
Right. Don't succeed or fail on your own, or you don't just succeed on your own.
Right. So when groups come together, and let's say you want to win the lottery as a group,
Yeah.
It's not about the I, me, and myself, like the Doctor Strange sentence at the very end there said. Oh, you've learned this, you've learned that, but you haven't learned the very most important lesson that you came here to learn.
Right.
The master told him,
Yeah.
right, when she was dying. And he said, what is that? And she looked at him and said, it's not about you.
We both cracked up so much.
I know.
Because you must say that 100 times.
I tell people
maybe a
all
million times.
the time. Been doing so for years.
It's just so hard to hear it.
It's not about you.
Oh my gosh.
And Larry knows because I'm constantly saying, he's always saying, yes it is, I'm the center of the universe, it is about me. Right?
Well, in my case it is.
Of course, yes, of course, yeah.
For most everyone else it's not.
Right. But that's the point, you see? It's not about you. So when individuals say you want to have a group, high frequency group, and you want to win the lottery, and immediately people start saying, okay, so we're going to win it, we're going to share the amounts equally, and everybody's going to get a cut, and this and this and the other, and what are you going to do, and what are your firewalls, and my firewalls are this, and I'm going to do this and this with it. Okay, so go back to square one. Go back to the first intent. We're going to win the lottery. And now say to yourself, it's not about me. Winning the lottery is not about me. Now, what changes?
Changes.
Will you carry the same fireworks?
Exhausting. Well,
will you carry the same intents? What do you think?
I think everything changes.
Everything changes when it's not about you. My entire life was not about me. And the moments, I remember my mom once told me something about, your role is to, I don't know, the society, and, you need to be the leader of society and blah, 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 right?
That's what your mom told you?
Yeah. And my dad too. They were responsible for society, and everybody was a kid.
Oh.
And you had to take care of them.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you grew up in a different household than I did.
Right. Okay. So, anyways, it was it felt to me didn't resonate at all, because that's the opposite, right? So it's all about them, right? You have to serve them. And neither of those were right. Because you are them.
Right. Both of
and
those.
And them are you.
Both of the firsts are separative.
Yes.
Not
inclusive.
Right. You're not a part of.
Right.
You're separate from.
And one of the methods that I used, especially when I was asked to go public, was, okay, so, if I do XYZ, if I marry that person, is it going to make the mission of delivering the message of empowerment, is it going to make it easier, or is it going to make it harder? Right? Okay, if I buy that car, is it going to make the mission of empowering the masses easier or harder?
Depends on the car.
So every decision was not about me.
Right.
There was no me. I had to construct a me in order to deliver the message of empowerment, which was really bizarre, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know how to speak
I agree.
The first person.
I totally agree. I remember when I met you, you weren't very good at it.
No.
You were good at standing on the stage and talking.
Talking about what?
A message of empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Talking about you. Talking about the audience.
Yes.
Right. So I remember that. Yeah. So I had to learn how to do that, but it's a matter of bridging at the time. It was a bridging. The individual comes in because the entire Ascension movement on the planet, the human collective ascension movement, had been hijacked very easily by individuals going into groups of empowerment and ascension and saying, concentrate on yourself.
Right.
Right? It's your empowerment you have to think about. It's your enlightenment that you have to think about. Not the groups, yours.
Yeah.
And boom, everybody's thought, oh yeah.
Okay, this is perfect.
This
I
is
like
perfect.
this.
I like this, yeah.
I like this.
But it was never about the individual.
Oh, shit. You mean oops?
Yeah.
That was so easy.
It was very easy. So now we have this chance, right, on this planet. Mm-hmm. We have the chance to step into being the human collective. Not serving the human collective, not being slave to the human collective, not being individually separate from the human collective. We have a chance to be the human collective.
Embody the be, the collective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And, whenever you do like in a manifestation item, anything, or buy a car, or buy a house, or get a new job, go deep into yourself and say, how does this facilitate the embodiment of the new paradigm for the human collective?
Wow, I should just put that on repeat for a little while.
Can you repeat it now?
No, you need to say it like 16 times, honey.
Yeah.
Because it goes in and it goes, turns like mist.
Yeah.
So I think it, I hear it, I can't say it. So to get through that, sometimes repetition is required.
Yeah.
So rewind 15 seconds, and then listen to that part again. And then rewind 15 seconds, and listen to that part again, until you can say it. Word for word, word for word.
Word. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Mm-hmm. So does this, whatever, facilitate
the
embodiment of the high frequency paradigm What next?
That's it.
Oh, there's not more?
No.
Gosh, see how hard it is to hold it? It's so ephemeral. Ephemeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's others that are really good at it.
Yeah.
I can use their strength as our strength. Our strength is their strength. They would probably write it and make
make a video.
And put it on the water and have a video.
Dance to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Carve it into a thingy. Put it over the door.
Yes. No, good teams.
Good teams. Okay, groups. You know what you need to do. Put that on Talk With Me Now.
Yeah.
Here's your marching orders. Write that.
On the Inelia Benz channel.
Put it on Talk With Me Now so that we can all read it. And even though somebody else did it, you do it too. Then we'll get it flooded on there. And guess what? It will stick.
Yeah. It will.
That's a healthy group. Mm-hmm. I like it. Alrighty. That feels like complete to me.
It does? Okay.
Yeah. That feels like the thing to end with for this talk.
Sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good.
Love you, honey.
Love you too, darling. 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 Darling.